Yeah. All right. I can't be blamed for that anymore. Beautiful. All right, all right.
Yep.
Wonderful. You're recording? Beautiful. All right. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to call the regular meeting of the Willington School Building Committee to order. It's May 26th, 2026, and it is 7:01 p.m. Member President and myself, James Marshall, and Zelonis, Adam Brewer, Jeremy Brothers, Peter Bacon, and we have two alternates online, Lisa Eden, or we have one alternate online, and Ann Grosjean. Lisa, can you do me a favor and just confirm that you can hear us and speak back?
Oh, sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you. I'll make a motion to seat Lisa Eden in place of Samantha Sperry.
Jim, this is John here, and I'm here too. I'm trying to change my name.
Okay.
But last time we had a meeting, I logged out and it changed my name, and now it logged me back in. I haven't been back in. I don't know what's going on.
All right. Well, good. Welcome, John. We do have a motion on the floor, and it's seconded by Ann, correct? Any other discussion? No? All right. I am going to do a roll call because we are hybrid, sake of it. Pete, we'll start with you. See, Lisa. Aye. In place of I'm an aye. Adam. Aye. Aye. All right. 346. That is unanimous. Lisa, you are seated for tonight.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Thank you, everybody. So with that said, we'll jump right in. First up on the agenda is chair report. It will be brief because I want to get right into our esteemed guest here. So first off, I just want to say thank you, everybody in Willington, and in particular the PTA and the Willington Day Committee. We had a wonderful event and a good time on Saturday. It was great to be able to share our work with the community. It was great to get all sorts of feedback, most of it being positive, which is wonderful. And I'm looking forward to continuing that conversation. And thank you very much to the Tecton team for all of your assistance in getting everything together for us. So thank you very much. So with that said, first up on our agenda is a presentation by Dr. Peter Prouder regarding the enrollment projections, the committee that he prepared on behalf of the committee and that we're utilizing as part of our project development effort. So what we're going to do is Dr. Pratt has prepared a presentation for us. Following that, we'll open it up to the committee for question and answers directly. And then we have a present to speak opportunity immediately following. So we'll open it up to the public following that. And with that said, let me see if I can still share this screen for you. There. Hey, all systems go.
Going to make it bigger than that. Right?
Hold on one
Working
second.
on it.
Let me see if I can, how's that? As big as I can go.
That's it. Big.
Beautiful. Beware there is a slight lag sometimes, so it may take a second to load your next
Do I
slide.
have to have a clicker to?
Just point at me and I'll advance it for you. Thank you.
Before I start, I just want to say that I broke this down by pre-K 4 and 5 to 8. And I did not do pre-K 8, and I see very quickly here in your materials, you're thinking about a pre-K 8 school.
Correct.
So remind me, I've got the magic number you need.
Okay.
8-year projection for pre-K 8. The other thing is, it looks like in pre-K right now, I don't know what, haven't been informed what your exact program is and whether you're planning to expand it, make it universal or whatever. 'But we're going to the projections based on 2019 and 2020 basically a percentage of births, 3 and 4 years later. And right now, in the projection, it's running about 24 children. So if you have plans to change that program, we can make an adjustment, or the superintendent can actually make an addendum to what I do to get it, to adjust that number to get a better reimbursement. The way I'm gonna go through this is I'm gonna start with enrollment history. Talk about the projections by level, projection factors, things that go into projection, contributing factors. And then how I've done in the past. So after I get through with it, you'll get to see whether I'm any good at this. Next page. Next slide.
Well, that clearly didn't work.
I can imagine the next slide. Okay, keep going. One more. Okay. That is where you come from since 1970. Your peak enrollment was 678 kids in 1996. You're not going to come near that again. Between 75 and 85, enrollment declined 17%. Between 85 and 96, it grew 19.6%. Your enrollment this year, and we always do it on October 1, was 373 kids. And that's 45%, 257 students below your peak. Now, what was the kids enrolled in your two schools? You've also got 16 kids attending K-8 non-public schools somewhere in the state, 5 attending a magnet school, 4 were enrolled in a non-public special education facility, and 3 attended another public school. And you have no non-residents enrolled. Slide. Okay, so this is our starting point. You look at this and we build from births, and then we look at growth from grade to grade. So it's helpful to see where the kids are and aren't this year. Grades 3 and 7 are the largest classes at 44 kids. Grades 2, 6, and 7 each had more than 40 kids. Grade 1 was the smallest class with 30 kids. That's the year they changed the law and asked you and your parents to hold back the kids, 4-year-olds born September to December. Many 4 to 4-year-olds born between September 2nd and December 31 deferred enrollment until they turned 5. This made life extremely difficult for me because as we're projecting for the next couple of years, instead of just being able to do January to December and see the patterns then, I had to break births down into January to August and September to December, project off of those numbers, and then finally, as we get out in the projection, we go from September to August. If current conditions continue, this year's class of kindergartners of 34 kids could grow to 41 students when it enters grade 5 at Paul Memorial Middle School. So you go from 34 to 41, you're adding a kid or 2 per year per grade. And that is built into the projection. Next slide.
There it is.
There you go. The first part of the slide, lighter colored blue, is your past enrollment history for the past 10 years. And while that is important, is we project, and that means just move forward recent past patterns. And different people doing this have different methods of doing it. My method is to use short-term recent enrollment changes, the last 3 years, to project the next 3. Then I back it off. I figure in years 4 to 10, I use the median over the past 10 years. Now, we've had a couple glitches in the last 10 years, and fortunately, or not, using the median knocks out basically unusually low or unusually high numbers. Now, what are the unusually low numbers? Well, 24, we had the exclusion of the September to December kids. Now, that's a kick. It's a hit to the projection because that's fairly recently. And you want to, you sort of weight the recent stuff higher. The other thing we had is COVID. So that in general, in most cases I've seen, knocked down enrollments in 20 and then gave us a spurt in 21. It doesn't appear on your graphs that it hit that way. So whatever you did, it looks like you pretty much kept the parents kept the kids in school. A lot of places I saw a lot of people homeschooling, and then the next year, homeschoolers came back. And since the state does not keep track of who's homeschooled, that messes anybody who's doing projections numbers up. So enrollment declined in the last 10 years from 434 to 373. 10-year loss of 61 kids, 14.1%. No, sounds like a lot, but it's not terrible. The state as a whole for those grades declined 9%. When I looked at other similar districts in the region, your 14.1% decline was right about the middle. There was a 21.6% growth in Eastford and a 48.8% decline in Union. Of course, that just in Union, such a small place, that might be 2 kids. I don't know. What do I see total enrollment going forward? Next year, I see a gain of about 20 kids. And I see a total enrollment of 520 in 2035, a gain of 39%. Statewide pre-K through 8 enrollment is projected to be 4.1%. Now I want to get a number that I didn't include, I don't think, in the report. For a school construction grant, the 8-year high is 504 kids in 2033. So we'll see your architect running and changing his numbers too much, so I guess he's got this. You could average about 450 kids versus 405 over the past 10 years. You're gonna have a few more kids here. And I guess your decision is to figure out a school size. It's gonna work for you. The state is going to buy. Center school enrollment. Pre-K to 4 enrollment fell from I guess that's the next. Yeah, got there. Okay, fell from 248 to 200 in kids in 2021. And then has recovered a little bit to 2011. The 10-year change was a loss of 37 students, so 14.9%. Statewide in those grades, there was a 9.2% decline. So while 14.9 percent seems like a lot, it's just fairly typical for the state. What do I see coming forward? Plus 15 students next year. A peak, if you decide to go into two schools of 290 kids in 2030 or 2090 students, and ending the projection of 283 students. That would be a growth of 72 students, 34% over 10 years. Statewide, I think it's going to be 1.4%, so you're exceeding the state and towns around you pretty much. Your pre-K enrollment was 22 kids in October 2025. I'm projecting 25 children in 26 and an average enrollment of 24 over the next 10 years. What I do is I look at the percentage enrollment based on kids born 3 and 4 years ago. And I was not informed of any changes. And obviously I threw out the COVID years and figuring out those percentages. So we're thinking you roughly get 23% of the 3 and 4 year olds in the town. I don't follow pre-K that much. And so I don't know whether 23% is a lot or a little, whether you're changing the program or not. If you have plan changes, it would be possible for the superintendent to add an addendum to my projection, saying basically that my numbers were based on the programs of the past 10 years, and going forward, she is planning, whatever new programs, and then she'd have to justify the new number. And I'm pretty sure, I mean, they looked that over carefully at state, but a good rationale should get that passed. So you don't have to use my numbers exactly. The superintendent, if something has changed, can manipulate them slightly. Well, no, that's the word, relevant. Adjust them slightly if there's a known change happening. And pre-K is one of the spots where it could happen because, you've got 4-year-olds. And I don't know how you guys handle 4-year-olds. Those September to December kids. Parents are gonna need a program. That would be a program for a different program than we've had in the past.
Oh, we are, not to interrupt, but we are fortunate to have a Board of Ed member and actually the chair of the Board of Education here in town attending in our audience. So can I ask you guys to just offer some clarity to the conversation about existing pre-K and what the educational specifications for this project they're projecting?
I have a question to start with. You said 23%. Does that mean that 23% of our identified 3 and 4-year-olds are attending our pre-K program? Is that what you meant?
23% of births of the kids born 3 and 4 years ago are enrolled in your pre-K program.
Yeah, not all of our students are enrolled. It's I'm bringing in, you can probably know this, but not all of our children go to pre-K. We have our special ed children in the program, and then we have some other children that are lotteried in.
Yes, yes.
So I think we have quite a few, I don't know if I'm safe to say, children that are out in the community, not in the 3 and 4 program. When they come to kindergarten, I believe we have our closest to the true number of 5-year-olds, 4-year-olds in our programs.
There is a statistic in the school profiles, I believe, which asks, which gives the percentage of pre-K kids of kindergarten kids who had a pre-K experience. Now, it's not exact for this type of purpose because, I mean, a kid could have just moved in. So they wouldn't have shown up on the birth records. But that's not something to look at. And I don't know whether you're planning a universal pre-K for free, which could change. No, that would change everything. And if you were planning that, you could have the superintendent just take a look at other similar type of districts who offer a free preschool and adjust your numbers accordingly, probably based off of prior bills.
Brianna, would you agree that it's not in our direct plans to have a,
Not at this time. We have had conversation about when it comes to design, putting the early childhood classrooms at the end of a corridor. So it would be possible to add on to the end of that if we end up going that route, eventually. Some of the reasons why our preschool is arranged the way it is now is because when students who are receiving special services and the state reach the age of 3 years old, they are dismissed from the birth to 3 program.
Right.
And then they have to have services within their public school system.
Right.
So that is why the majority of our preschool students now are students of that sort, who require those extra measures such as speech and language pathology and OT and PT, things like that, to help back them. And then we make spaces for model students to participate in our pre-K program. So also right now we have a morning program and an afternoon, this morning and afternoon. On the ed spec, it's a request to have another pre-K classroom, so that would double our population essentially. And be able to open it up to more children from town. Another reason why some students, so the birth of 3 children have priority, that's what I'm getting.
Sure.
Another reason why some students from town are not able to attend our public school program has to do with transportation. We don't offer before or after school care for little ones, age 3 and 4. And daycare is pretty tight here in Willington. So for some families, they have to take their children to daycare in other towns. So it doesn't make sense for transportation reasons or for childcare reasons for them to attend our public school preschool program. That's part of why it works as it does right now.
One other interesting tidbit is you mentioned COVID, and we had that high attendance during COVID. Well, the children came back to school in September full time. For that whole year, for the year, they were out for the 3 months, and then they came back in September. They were isolated in classrooms. There was a whole lot of modifications.
So to boil it down, it does sound, we are looking at increasing the ability to enroll more in the preschool program because we turn away now, essentially.
Right, that's why we have the lotteries.
So if that has an impact in your numbers, we'll have to address.
Yeah, I mean, my
How that
numbers
factors into your projections.
assume status quo.
Yeah.
More kids, extra classrooms. Now, I assume these pre-K numbers. It's 22 kids. You have both 3 and 4-year-olds. I assume you have a class of 3-year-olds. And a room for 4-year-olds, so you're running a class of 11 kids. Somewhere around there.
According to your numbers, that's what would be the assumption. I don't know per se.
Okay,
Sometimes they're multi-age classrooms too, so I can't say it's 3-year-olds separated from 4-year-olds.
well, well, obviously, this is the age as of October 1st. And kids become eligible, was it 2 years, 9 months? And for special ed kids. And so they this isn't a constant number throughout the year. But again, for projection purposes. It has to be October 1 calendar. But you've got some. I think you want some discussions on that. Before you go much further. And that can be modified, and so it's not that big a deal. It should not hold up the process.
One more question for Brianna. You mentioned that our kindergarten had 34 children. Did we find out at our last board meeting that that number went up significantly?
Yeah.
Like in the 40s,
Or
am I
at least
correct?
40.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that group coming into kindergarten, we're having a new classroom next year because the numbers went up significantly.
Well, that changes from October fifth.
Yeah. And that's the number you predicted for grade 5 in the boys.
I think some of that might have to do with the new state requirement for children to be 5 by September 1st. That means that we had more students out of kindergarten this year, waiting for their turn to turn 5 and then be able to enter next year. So again, speaking of daycare around the state, that might be with some of those little ones, but
Yeah, you guys didn't, let me look at something. Yeah, as I recall, you didn't react parents didn't react immediately to the change in the law. And I know school districts, that I've talked to and worked with. If the parent put in a request, school didn't fight it.
That's another factor. This is the last year that we're allowed to accept waivers, and I believe there might be a few waivers children coming in out of waivers.
What do I have here?
So I think.
Yeah.
I think we can, I don't want to hold up the
Right.
balance of your presentation, Dr. Crowder, but I think the expectation is that we're gonna need to take a look at potential impacts of the pre-K enrollment.
I think you're right.
Okay,
Yes, absolutely. And the good news is you don't have to hire me for the projection. You can do that little adjustment in house.
okay.
Just by saying you're changing your program and this is what your expectations are. I'm pretty sure
So our superintendent isn't here. I know the Board of Ed through our superintendent were the ones that contracted this originally, so I'll make sure that any updates are, I want to make sure he's involved in that discussion.
Okay.
But yes, so please.
All memorial.
All right.
No, we're still on 7. All right, here we go. All memorial. Your enrollment history, the enrollment grew from 186 students in 2016, 2002 and 15, excuse me, 202 in 17, and then declined to 162 students in 2025. 10-year loss of 24 students, or almost 13%. In the public schools statewide, enrollment declined a little less than 9%. I'm expecting an increase in enrollment of 4 kids next October. Peak enrollment for school construction grant would be 224 students in 2033. And here's a little bit of a problem. In 2035, enrollment would be 235 students. Be a 10-year gain of 73 students, or 45%. So at the upper level of grades, you're gonna see a pretty good increase. Statewide, I project enrollment will be declining by 5%. The school's projected to average almost 190 kids. And over the next 10 years, that's a little better than the 184 over the past 10. So now we get into the factors. Calendar year births. This was fascinating. You had 79 births back in 83. And that dropped to 31 in 2015. And you had a provisional count of 38 in 2024. So, I mean, you can just see the trend is downward. Pretty much, except maybe this year. Based on in-state births through September, I estimate there were now, they still haven't got the figures out for 25, 63 births in that year. So that's a lot for you guys. And that impacts future, my estimate, my projection of future births. From 2000 to 2009, there were an average of 48.4 births. This, from 2016 to 2020, that's this year's kindergartner through fourth graders. Births averaged only 49. So you want to know why enrollment declined. We went from 48 births to 9 births annually. Then here's the big kicker: in 21 through 25, births are going to average 51 kids. That's already happened, except for the last quarter of 2025. Because of the increase that I've seen in 25, I assumed an average of 51 births between September and August of 25, 26. Between, to 29, 30. So the projection includes an average of 51 births. Are you gonna keep it there? Not guaranteed, obviously. Then I don't know what would cause births to jump up in 25. That's an unusual pattern for me to see. But 24 births were unusually low, a little lower than average. 25 births were up a little higher than average. And so we're going to take an average of 51 going forward. Next slide is grade to grade growth. Now, what grade to grade growth is? Well, wait a minute, did I just skip? I don't know. I did. Birth to kindergarten growth. So what this does is it looks at births to first kindergarten enrollment, irrespective of the year of entry, range from a low of 85% for kids born in 2012. So in 2012 to 2017, parents either decided to enroll their kids somewhere else, or there was a slight out migration. I'm not sure. And for those kids born in 2017, there was 112% growth. So a 12% growth and 15% decline. It's going to sort of average out. And I'm assuming it's going to be 96%. The projection in the next couple of years, or next year, is based on January to August births in 2021, September to December births in 2020, and September to December births in 2021. We still assume there might be 1 or 2 parents who want to enroll their kid at age 4. Um. And again, the projection of 27 follows the same model. It's based on January to August births, and then September to December births. But starting in 27, I assume no kids, no 4-year-olds will be enrolled. Hopefully parents get the message. Most of the research out there says the kids will perform better, at least in the near term, if you start them at that age 5. And then when I do the projection in 28, 30 to 35, it's based on September to August births. So everybody coming in will be 5 years old. Great growth. So next thing happens. So this shows, what happens between first grade and second grade, kindergarten and first to second to third, etc. So it's comparing enrollment in one grade 1 year with enrollment the prior grade the prior year. And this reflects basically migration. Some superintendents, when they're doing their budgets, just move the class up. So if you had 25 kids last year in grade 1, they assume there'll be 25 kids in grade 2 the next year. This takes into account the average growth we've seen over the past few years. I use the 3-year average growth for the projections of 26 to 28. Again, assuming any recent pattern will continue. And I use the 10-year medians for the projections of 29 to 35. On average, across grades 1 to 8, you had a 2.4% annual grade to grade growth. That's good. That's people moving into 10. The rate in 2025 was almost double that, 4.2%. And the median rate over the past 20 years was 1.012. So near term things are generally more positive than the prior past terms. Okay, now you get into contributing factors. So let me say, when you're doing a projection, the only thing we look at is births and grade to grade growth. That's it. And people say, well, what about this, that, and the other thing? It's all built in. So if there's more housing units built, more people move in, more people move into schools, and they're not always all kindergartners. There'll be some extra first and second graders, third graders, whatever. And so that's all built in to the grade to grade growth. And as I said, the average across your grades is roughly 2.4%, which is a nice number. That's movement into 10. So we look at estimated town population growth. This is from the census, and it's based on relative number of housing units. The census estimated you grew by 57 people in the years 20 to 24. The population growth of little more than 1% was fairly low rank, 142nd. So there wasn't a population boom here. Holland County, and again, you're right around 1% growth. Holland County's growth was 2.35. The state was a little less at 0.8. And similar communities, based on economic and need characteristics, was 1.8. So you're a little behind the county, Holland, but a little above the state, and slightly below similar communities. Net new housing units. This is number of housing units permitted in Willington. I don't have 25 data yet. It ranged from a high of 28 in 2016 down to a low of 0 in 2015 and 18. The 2016 figure was the 24 unit senior housing project. Now most people would say, so what, seniors? Well, what that does, it frees up existing housing in town. Because if you're gonna, a lot of seniors want to stay in the place, they raise their kids. And so they move into senior housing, freeing up other housing for younger families with kids. So, it may be counterintuitive, but senior housing is a big deal when you're doing planning for schools. You had a net of 3 permits issued in 2024. There was an average of 4 over the last 3 years. And we assume that will continue.
We had 7 last year, if I remember correctly, but.
In 25? Okay,
But in the neighborhood.
but I haven't, I mean, I've done the Mansfield. And they're going crazy with apartments down there.
Yeah.
And student housing. But student housing, and it's graduate student housing. So, I mean, graduate students may have school age kid, but, if they're just starting out, they're gonna be here in that town for 5 years. So it doesn't affect the schools that much.
Any potential impact of residents that would otherwise take single family homes or something in Willington moving into student housing instead of occupying existing housing stock in town? Is there any?
Do you have?
I don't.
housing?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, oh, yes.
We do have graduates.
But you've got nothing new. So what happens there is those kids, that group of people screws up state, town population projections. I mean, what happens is you have a group of kids coming in 21, 22 to 26. And usually when you're doing population projections, you assume a 21-year-old comes in and they're gonna stay in town for whatever period. We've come in short term and then they're replaced by 21 to 26-year-olds. So they make life impossible to project for. It makes it very difficult to project for here a little bit. And certainly in neighboring communities of Mansfield.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if we were sitting in Mansfield today and someone, the board would say, well, what about this new 200 unit development they're putting in for students and 10% is gonna be set aside for low income families. Or lower average income families. And I go, well, we're gonna have to see. That's a big problem in projections today because the younger kids can't afford down payment for a number of reasons. And they are, and apartments and condos are becoming a major generator of kids. Let's take a look at the next slide, the estimated sales of existing single family homes and condos. A low of 24 in 2024. I think what's happening there is there was a big rise starting in 2020. I don't know if there's people leaving cities or more congested areas. Certainly my drive here wouldn't lead me to believe there's much congestion in town, or density. So you saw basically in the post-COVID years, an increase in housing. And then by 24, it had dropped off. In 25, it recovered to a more normal, figure. In 23 to 25, the last 3 years, there's an average of 36 sales. And I expect that the projections sort of for the next 3 years, sort of assumes that type of number. Non-public schools, the next slide. Again, not a big deal here. The only thing that's unusual in this pattern is the high of 16 students, and this is K to 8, pre-K to 8 students only in 23. Obviously, COVID in 20 just killed the non-public schools. We had 14 kids in 2024. The typical pattern I see is pretty much straight downhill. I mean, I see 15, 16, 70% declines. The year 10-year side change was up 9 kids. That's a little unusual. The 25 enrollment represented 3.6% of K through 8 students enrolling. And it was 1.3% 10 years ago. It's up. I don't know where they're going, but for projection purposes, we're not talking a whole lot of kids. The next slide shows kids going to other places, other public schools. A high of 14 students in 2020, a low of 6, most recently in 2024. Last year you had 8 students go. You had 5 in magnet and charter schools, 3 in another public school. I'm never certain who the 3 are. It may be students of teachers, and it may be special ed arrangements with local schools where you might take one kid with one disability, you have a program for that kid, and the other school has a program for a kid with a different disability. Next slide shows the estimated migration. And what I do here is I look at all families that I can trace. So wherever they're being educated, I look at the counts. And what I do is I compare the number of kids enrolled in grades 2 through 7 one year with the grades 3 through 8 the next year. And the reason I pick those grades is a lot of kids, obviously in grade 9, a lot of kids are making a whole bunch of different choices. So there's very little else that happens in here. There's very little retention in these grades. So it sort of reflects, I think it's a good measure of migration. The one thing it doesn't have is homeschool kids. So the low was minus 3.4% in 2022. The high is plus 8.5% in 2017. Why that range? I don't have the slightest idea. The average is 1.6% in the last 3 years and plus 0.9% in the last 10 years. And so we are projecting in the numbers in the projection. We've got families moving in, families with kids moving in. It's not a huge number, but it is built into the projections. Now, the last slide. Yeah, that's the last slide. The last slide shows how well I've done. I've only done 2 projections for you guys. It looks like somewhere around 2012 and 2022. But the 2 projections I did, my 1-year average rate is 2.5%. The 1 projection that I did back in 2012 had a 5-year error rate of 12.6%. or 2.4% food. So it looks like for your community, the average error is roughly 2.5% food. How did my 21 projection do? Over 4 years, I was 8.6% low, which is 2.1% per year. Pre-K, I was 41% low. And that probably had something to do in 21 where we're coming off of COVID. K to 4, I was 2 kids low. And that's over 4 years, 1.1% and 0.3% per year, which for a small community, it's either damn good or damn lucky. I don't know which. But and then grades 5 to 8, I don't understand this. And I didn't get any comment from superintendent. I was 25 high. And usually you have a little more trouble. Usually grades 5 to 8 are a little more stable. So that was 15.4%. I wasn't happy with that, or 3.7% per year. That shows you the range of accuracy that the method gives you. If you have any questions, not only am I available here, but you all have my phone number and email. And this goes to anybody here and anybody in the audience. If you have usually, I walk away from a meeting like this and I go, damn, I wish I could thought of that question while he was standing there. Well, I've got a response to it. Write me a call. We won't give you that. We'll try to be business. So, any questions?
So, I mean, we'll open it up to the board. I'm gonna start us off with a brief question. So trying to distill, I mean, this was a lot of information, there's a lot of metrics that go into your work,
Yeah.
obviously. For the with the intent of trying to distill this down into critical metrics that are driving the projected enrollment growth. If you had to, it sounds like what I'm hearing is it's an increase in birth rates that are one major factor in this, as
Yep.
well as grade to grade growth, so people moving in with children into the community.
Yep.
Is there, I don't want to object it to you, I'm asking you to kind of answer that, but that's what I heard. Is there anything more that's really driving that notable increase in growth over the next 10 years projection?
When you do a projection, the only things you look at, and there are people who do much fancier looking presentations and much more expensive looking presentations. But the trick of this is you look at births, get kindergarten enrollment, you look at the pattern of grade to grade growth. Our this one grade as they move through the grades, then you pick up a kid or you lose a kid. And that's it. Because everything that happens in town is reflected in these numbers. So you don't do a multiple regression, for instance, and take all the different factors you might come up with, like housing starts, and sales of existing housing, estimated population growth in the census and all those things. Mainly because most of those data aren't, I mean, these are solid data that you have. You know the number of kids. And it's been collected consistently and it's collected every year. And when you're doing a projection, you want as good data as possible. And that's what you go with. And then the trick is to pick your multipliers. What do you think is going to work? I picked the last 3 years not much has happened in there. And to project the next three, and I use the 10-year prior project, years, 4 through 10. Other people, if you go to NESDEC, in their basic projection, what they will do is they will look at the growth rates and see which growth they calculate, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10-year growth rates, and then look and see how the past projected the current year. And they pick the best one. And that's not if you buy a special projection from them, that's the $500, the basic projection you get with your nested dues. I have found that my method comes close to theirs. And some people do high and low projections. Okay, I've seen that, and I assume what they do is pick out the top 3 years, the bottom 3 years, that's the high low. But guess what? That doesn't help you guys. Because what happens when you do that and you take a percentage growth and you start doing the low percentage, like you get a really low number. You do the high growth and you get a really high number very quickly. And then you guys are left with the question, which one do I use? And I don't have an answer for it. That's what I want you to say.
Adam, you eyeballed me? What? I was saying. Anybody else? All right. Let me stop sharing so that I can see if Lisa's even still on the screen. Lisa, I couldn't see anything throughout that discussion. So did you have any comments? I'll ask now.
No, that was very, very helpful though.
All right.
And
Thank you, sir. The pre-K enrollment, is that really just as simple as projecting an increase in enrollment for it?
it's based on births.
It's based
And
on
based on the observed percentage of births that we've had over the past 2 years.
So is it safe to say that an increase in our capacity for pre-K enrollment might ultimately produce an increase in projected enrollment? Or is that, how does that, I guess that,
Future declining applications, I would say.
Obviously, I don't know your competitors.
Yeah.
I mean, pre-K is, a lot of it's private right now. Parents pay a bunch of money. I just did a projection for somebody, and they are basically going to offer universal pre-K for free, which would essentially wipe out any private providers. If you've got a network of private providers and not much backlash.
well, the expectation is once those students hit kindergarten age, whether or not they got a slot in pre-K, it's going to show up. So really, am I interpreting this correctly that increased enrollment would just be for the increased capacity of pre-K? And that those potentially increased students are already built into the metric. Beyond that, just because the fact we're turning them away, does that make sense? I'm not relaying this very.
You've got a program in place.
Yeah.
It sounds like you have to serve, you've got laws that say what you have to do with special ed children. It sounds like you offer special ed kids can be integrated with the community better. You offer on a lottery basis, parents to come in and have their kids be served alongside the special ed kids. I got that program right?
Yep.
So the question, I guess, one question that you could ask is, how many kids do you turn away in the lottery? And that would, that's a pretty easy number to see. You've got it for the past X number of years. And if you decide to add some capacity, that would, you've got a solid number that you could reasonably submit to the state based on actual number of kids who you've had to turn away, and that could be added to the projection also.
Okay, that makes sense to me. All right. Anything else from the professionals in work? All right. So thank you. We have our next, find the agenda. The next item of business on our discussion is community forum Q&A. I'll have them, while it may not be limited to your questions about the enrollment projections, I'd ask that you hang out and entertain any questions through the chair, obviously. If that's all right with you, Dr. Freda.
You want me to hang out?
Hang out, yeah, hang out, and we're gonna have community questions now.
Through.
Through the board, through people in the room. If any are related to your enrollment projections, I may ask you to assist in those
I made
responses.
money by the hour.
Beautiful.
This is.
All right, so with that said, we'll move on to community forum Q&A. Public participation is encouraged. Speakers are encouraged to utilize the opportunity for dialogue with the committee constructively and will be limited by appropriateness, staying on topic and maintaining decorum. What I will ask is that all questions be addressed directly through the chair, and we'll do our best to, again, as we always do every week, have a discussion. So I'm going to go online to start. If there's anybody online that would like to make a comment, please raise your hand or identify yourself for the record. All right. Think about it. Hearing none, I'll go to the room for the time being. Is there anybody in the room? Yes, Dick.
Judy 319, First Line.
Thank you, Judy.
Commenting on the pre-K lottery.
Mhm.
Now, my kids are in college and just graduated, so it's been a few years. However, we didn't even bother submitting for the lottery because we knew it was so hard to get. So I think it's great that you look at the number of people turned away, that there's probably a lot more than that.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, go ahead.
Willington, 97 Trask Road. Doctor, I'm gonna ask a question. Willington, like the nation, is moving towards a choice model for education. Many parents in Willington are electing homeschooling. I noted that you made a comment earlier that that's not included in your projections for our town. If you did, I recall when I was on the board of education, we used to get data from you on parochial school enrollment that impacted the numbers. If we're moving towards something different now, such as homeschooling or other forms of educational choice that parents may elect to pursue, how would that impact these projections? Does that fall into the other category you were showing, or how would that look? My question.
As far as homeschooling, there's a whole issue in General Assembly this year about that and DCF and the interactions there. I think one of the things that came out was that the district is now going to collect the number of kids. They're gonna know who's homeschooled. So we'll get data. And obviously, the next couple of years, you don't want to, I don't see anything changing. I mean, the law didn't change, make it more difficult for parents to be homeschooled. I believe they turned down requirements for CAP and CMT testing. I'm not sure about that. So I think homeschooling will stay pretty much the way it is. It's in the background. I don't see it coming to the forefront. The only thing that we'll see is what the actual number of kids are, and the only thing that'll impact in my work is I will now have an extra number of kids when I want to determine the growth in town, the estimated migration in town. I'll have those kids built into the model, but that'll take a couple of years, and I might not be, I probably won't be projecting it in those sheets. So it shouldn't have, I don't think it'll have any changes in the law. And parents would be just as free to do that. I don't really think anything changed for parent wants to kid wants.
But you see no impact on our normal projections now.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room? Please,
And this question's open to the building projects.
sorry, speak up a little bit, identify yourself too, please.
Are
Sorry.
these questions open to the building project, or do we wait until after for that?
Yeah, you can address anything you want right now, but I will ask you, just state your name and
Yeah.
address for the record.
Deani, Dushan Road. I was wondering how it is that we got the 65.71% reimbursement rate for the repairs.
I'm gonna direct that one directly to you. Mr. Fellman.
Yes, the 65.71 reimbursement rate is your base rate without the additions that were provided by legislation that have the sunset clause by June of 27. So that was your base rate. And for the repairs, again, need to point out that there's only very specific portions or projects that would even qualify for state reimbursement. So the majority of the repair replacement work would not qualify for state money. Those portions that did, such as a roof project or a mechanical project, would be at what we see as your current rate. Now the rate gets recalculated every year. So again, if you did a project in the future, that rate may be different, but as we understand it today, that would be the rate.
Yeah, so that rate is our base, is essentially our rate.
Yes.
None of the special legislation applies.
Correct.
And only eligible projects within those identified repairs are eligible for that reimbursement. If it's not an eligible project type, it doesn't get that reimbursement rate. Absolutely.
So basically, if I'm understanding correctly, it's 65.71 for whatever is approved under that rate.
Whatever is eligible is the best way to say it. Whatever work is eligible.
It's a limited.
Yeah. The majority of repair and replacement projects do not qualify, are not eligible. They're deemed ineligible by the state of Connecticut for just a capital project approach.
Thanks, Scott. Anybody else in the room? All right. I see a hand up online. Nick. Can you unmute yourself? You have that ability? Yes.
Yep.
Thank you, Nick.
Nick. Thank you. Nick Tello, Myrtle Road. Before getting into written remarks that I put down on pen and paper, I just want to start off, just my road itself has at least 10 kids on it that do not go to these schools and will not go to at least from pre-K to 8. My kids in particular are 5 that will be considered homeschool. 5 others are at private schools. And I know, at least personally, another 16 homeschool kids in Willington. My wife continuously gets messages. I see them because I go through my messenger because she doesn't want Facebook smartly. So I see the increase in questions about homeschooling rising going to her. So I do see that continue pattern based on recent years, but we'll see. So getting into my remarks itself, I want to focus on the enrollment projections because the numbers to me that have been being discussed, I've been very open. I think they're wildly off. Now, using, I believe, October, we're right around 380 students, or correct me if I'm wrong on specifics if you want, but 380 students. 10 years ago, enrollment was about 434 students. That means over the last 10 years, enrollment is down 54 students, about 12.4%. Now we are being shown a projection that suggests enrollment could rise to around 520 students in the next 10 years. That would mean adding another 140 students from where we are today. There's a projected increase of about 37%. So the question is simple. How do we go from a 12.4% decline over the last 10 years to a projected 37% increase over the next 10 years? Complete major reversal. And I don't think we should accept that without a very clear explanation. And tonight's explanation, it didn't touch upon any actual like real life things that are going on in Connecticut. It was basically it sounded like maybe a statistician reading off data points and that was it. It wasn't real life application as far as why are people moving here, where are people moving to, what families are moving from here, what families are moving in here. It didn't touch upon any of those type of details. So the town demographics also do not strongly support that kind of rebound. Willington's median age has increased from about 34 years to 37.5 years old in the last 15 years. The population age has gone from population age 65 and older has increased about 23%. The median homeowner, because some people might say, well, those older people are now going into maybe some kind of other housing or such. However, the median homeowner is actually, the homeowners are actually increasing to now around 55 years old. It used to be around 48 to 50 years old. That points to the aging town. Connecticut's birth rate is also low, 1.6 births per woman, which is below replacement levels of the 2.1. So unless we have clear data showing major housing turnaround, which we don't have going on in this town, new family housing, or significant influx of younger families projecting a return of 520 students, it just doesn't seem realistic. Even if 2025 had a strong birth year of maybe I think 61 I heard earlier, that 1 year doesn't reverse a long-term trend. Those children would also not enter into kindergarten for about 5 years if they even enter it. Like I said, we're seeing a huge increase in the homeschooling and private options out there. So maybe enrollment stabilizes. That could be very true. Maybe there's a modest bump, but going from 380 students to 520 students is not a modest bump. There's a major increase in the actual 10-year enrollment trend, and town demographics do not support it. Before we base budgets, well, I won't get into the other comments here, but there's just no data points that I heard tonight. Again, it was more stats being read off and nothing really digging deep into what's going on in Connecticut. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Crowder. We will, I'll follow up in conjunction with our superintendent with any questions you may have upon viewing this as well. But with that said, we can let you escape if you so choose before we get into the nitty gritty of the next 2 hours. Probably
2 more hours?
I hope not. I hope not, but they're gonna yell at me if it goes that far. But thank you very much. I appreciate you coming in. All right. We're moving right along so that Adam doesn't yell at me. We'll go on approval of minutes. The first up are May 11, 2026. It was our regular meeting. They should be next up in your packet. Does anybody Hopefully you've all had a chance to review them, but does anybody want to make? Motion to approve? Say it out loud, Pete.
Motion to approve the minutes.
All right, do we have a second?
Okay.
All right, and second. Any discussion on these? Pretty long meeting, but Lisa has always did a really good job in capturing the content. All right. I'm gonna go on a whim and just try to ask everybody to say aye. So all those in favor, of approving the minutes from May 11th, please, if I were raising your hand, saying aye.
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 Decent.
Lisa?
Aye.
All right, beautiful. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Next up are our meetings from last Thursday. It was a special meeting, virtual only. May 21st, 2026. I'll just make a motion to approve the minutes for May 21st, 2026. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Adam Zalonis. All right, any discussion? All right, hearing none. So all those in favor, please signify by raising your hands and saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Lisa? One more time.
Okay, aye.
All right, unanimous again. Thank you, everybody. All right.
Can I just make a suggestion? Can you send these out a few days early so we can read them instead of the night? Just like this morning, it was like.
I can. We got the minutes for the 21st on Thursday this morning, so.
This is hard to get them the same day, and read it the same day as our meeting. It's very helpful.
I will do my, I do
work.
I do promise you, I do my best, and I do work too.
I know.
Especially around a holiday weekend, so I do try to get things out to you guys. I will try to make an effort to get as much as I can out earlier. But point taken. All right, next up, new business, item 6A, Willington Day recap and discussion. So, for those of you who didn't make it, thank you all for working to cover the booth, and thank you to the Tecton team once again. Booth looked great, a lot of information. We got a lot of good positive feedback, and a special thanks to Antonia's dog Ricky for joining us for the event. For the whole day. No, I think it was a good discussion. I mean, what feedback from your past experience?
Yeah, it was definitely very great to engage. We were, I think, in a good location, and we saw people right as they were coming in. The boards were really, I think, helpful, and they will have a second life. They'll probably be here for a little bit and then free to rotate across town. I know that the committee has been very diligent about posting materials online. And so as part of the handout today that folks in the public and around the table have, are two of the flyers that we distributed at that event, and one is front and back. And then the third page with some more white space around the edges is one of the boards that we had printed out in a small flyer format. The second board is a replica of one of the other flyers. So folks have that at their fingertips and can digest data moving forward. But yeah, I thought the event itself, it was great for me to see the community of Willington, experience my very first Willington Day. And yeah, it was wonderful to spend the day with all of you. So happy to go to more.
Yeah, no, thanks. Yeah, and thanks for the assistance in following this together on the work you've been doing on behalf of the committee. Yeah, this was shared, so we are, of course, obviously always entertaining additional feedback, particularly about the merits of any of these particular options. So we want to hear from you now that these are out there, and we're happy to be able to publicly share as of Willington Day that the new site option, which is some parcels adjacent to the existing hall school property, which is great. And I think with that said, anybody else have anything for Willington Day before we move into project documents?
Thanks again to the Tecton team. Really appreciate you guys. It was great. Good day.
Great team effort.
Beautiful. All right, so moving right along, design concept updates, Tecton Architects. We've discussed the addition renovation option at Hall. We've discussed the building on the new Hall site publicly in these meetings. We have not had a meeting yet where we can, really talk about the new school, the new school, new site option, which is really new school on parcels adjacent to existing Hall. So with that said, I think, it would be good to hear a little bit from the Tecton team. You could kind of walk us through, and I know you have some, sent me some stuff.
Thank you very much.
Give me 1 second.
Sure,
I will
no
try to
problem.
share that as well for you. And, oh boy, hold on. Here we go.
Perfect.
Oh, that stinks. That's as good as that gets.
No, this is great. This is
Oh, it looks different. Sorry.
great. So,
I got it.
Give us 1 second. We'll make it better for the people. All right.
okay. All right, awesome. So, the big news, is that there are adjacent parcels, to the south of the existing Hall Memorial site. And the town has engaged, in conversations around that acquisition. And it will ultimately come to the voters for their decision, but the benefit of the concept of a new school on the River Road parcels benefits not only the students, but the community at large, in that from an educational experience, the new school, which is similar in scale and building layout as we've previously discussed on the existing hall site. So for folks that have been following along, folks that have presentations posted on the website, those floor plans that you've seen before for the new construction option would be similar for this parcel. But it would allow that new construction to occur on a completely separate site that is being evaluated for its suitability, away from the disruption to the existing hall site, away with construction traffic, away from those existing learning environments, away from any disruption to existing athletic fields and play ongoing throughout the academic year. And it would allow that school to be custom designed, custom built, and allow the connection to be made to that existing hall site, accentuating the number of fields available for community use as well. So if we go to the second slide here, thank you, Jim. This is the visual of that. So on the left-hand side of your screen, towards the top of your screen, thank you, Scott. I have lots of assistants here tonight. This is amazing. Thank you, guys. So the left-hand image, towards the top right of that image, there's a very light blue form on top of that baseball field there to the very north. That is your existing Hall Memorial School. So for reference, that parcel to the area just beyond the second lower baseball field is your existing Hall Memorial site. So we will be adding the 3 parcels to the south and connecting all of that property. And you can see the benefit to the increase in the number of fields. So we have additional soccer fields, additional parking, additional baseball and softball fields.
And Tony, I just switched gears so I can actually point on screen. So
Thank you so much.
So the existing hall school is up in the northeast corner, highlighted in blue, as Antonia said, as a point of reference. So the existing hall school property really ends on this yellow line.
Perfect, Jim. Thank you.
Yep.
You can see the ability to create still the separated parent and bus drop-off areas on the right-hand side of your screen, zoomed in a little bit. That will always be our goal, whether we're on the existing hall site or whether we're renovating the existing building or building new on this site, separate that traffic. This really allows those queue lengths to pull off of the residential street so that we have all of our circulation on our site. There's ample space around the building for emergency access, for play, for outdoor learning. We're maintaining safe buffers from the wetlands and stream area to page left. So all in all, this is a more comfortable from a constructability and from a experience for the students once they're in their new building, and from a community use perspective, the acquisition of these parcels along River Road would allow a more comfortable space for community and students alike. If we move through the slides, we're basically just zooming into different opportunities across the parcel. So we're now kind of centered in the middle so that you can see some of the field opportunities, some of the outdoor learning opportunities. You also see that there is some significant topography. There's those the lines in very light white and very light yellow that are very close together. That signifies grade change throughout the site. So we're strategically placing our paths, our drives, our outdoor learning areas to reduce the impact to any of that topography across the site. But we do want to maintain a vehicular connection between the parcels to allow for emergency access and any maintenance that needs to occur. Perfect. Yes, thank you, Jim. Next slide is zooming into the top of your screen, where here you can most clearly see in light blue the existing Hall Memorial School. You can also see in the light dashed yellow lines coming off of that building, those are your locations of existing septic fields and leaching fields. So when we're thinking about, in all concepts, what we want to do within this area, we're tracking what those elements are so that we can be respectful of their existing locations. And you see the auxiliary parking lot provided to support the athletic fields, which will be a great amenity to town. And I believe those were the last slide.
So, reviewing the agenda. Yeah, so we have due diligence ahead on these, obviously.
Yes.
What I will just make a note is we do have the executed letter of intent that we had approved at our meeting last Thursday. So that is purchase and sale is still being negotiated on behalf of the town. And we'll get the details of that, obviously, as the lawyers have their say at it. But due diligence will be as well, obviously. And I don't know, you guys have any questions? I mean, you've seen it, you're familiar with things.
Yeah, for the public's use, Jim, might I just from a phasing and construction standpoint, just maybe
Please.
elaborate a little bit more. I think they did a great job explaining it. But you know, looking at comparing this new option to the new option on the existing site. You know, one of the real advantages of this, and again, pending our due diligence on the land, is that you're really minimizing the impact on the students for the time that this building is getting constructed. You know, the new building on the existing site would go in the location of the fields. So the building, the parking, construction laydown, in essence, as soon as construction starts, the students currently going to the middle school would not have any athletic area outside the building whatsoever to utilize.
That's in the new.
The new option on the existing site. You know, even once the school is done, which we estimate is going to take approximately 2 years, then you've got to raise the existing Hall Memorial School, which would be the location for the new field. By the time that field establishes itself, it's going to be approximately 4 years. Or, you know, you could have students that go through the entire middle school without ever having any kind of athletic field available to them. You know, currently there is a soccer field, there is a somewhat baseball, softball field. But I do know, my understanding is right now currently that the teams need to be bused to an alternative site that really has appropriate fields for ball play, for specifically baseball, softball. So this option, again, affords that opportunity right on the existing site to have an appropriate baseball, softball field, soccer field, some additional parking on there. So not only does it support the middle school, but it also provides additional resources for the community on that site with parking available to that site. So I just wanted to kind of point that out before we get into the due diligence that, you know, sort of that's the thought process of why the building committee and the Board of Education is looking for this option, because it not only does it afford adjacent fields that would not exist on the build new site or even the renovation project necessarily on the existing site, but also really minimizes the impact to the students and provides a lot of flexibility to the future.
I think, since we're on other good points, one of the other advantages of these adjacent parcels, compared to the prior committee's explorations, is that in unifying these potentially as a single site, it opens up work on the existing hall school site and with the hall school building, to eligibility for reimbursement, which would not have been the case before on a completely separate parcel. So I think that is a potentially tremendous cost avoidance, compared to other iterations of this work. So what I will also say is this is all generated while these parcels were opportunely timed in our work. We did, as a committee, basically do a due diligence effort, evaluating all of the former parcels that we had previously, as well as looking for any new opportunities like this one that may have come up, that would be suitable for a school site. And that was vetted, obviously, with our design team. There was a lot of initial due diligence in the background, just again, similar to the last time, vetting viability for these project sites. And when these parcels were identified, they were identified as a potential candidate. The committee, I think, was really in favor of pursuing something as a viable option. So I don't know. And we got, yeah, go for it.
Antonio, so for the new construction on the existing hall site, I guess existing site, is the primary access for construction of the existing entrance?
To be honest, we will have to study that logistically. I think we didn't conceptualize that yet, so we'll have to further evaluate that. But the thought would be to have a separate construction entrance so as to not interfere with parent and bus drop off. So we would certainly look to prioritize that and separate the construction area with fencing and all the safety protocols that go into place there.
And ultimately a CM or GC would assist us in that staging effort throughout the design process.
Yeah, there is a location, and I know Jeff has discussed in the Tecton team, again, needs further exploration, but a new curb cut that would, in essence, be where the kind of new parking lot is located. Grade, I think, works in the favor for a curb cut there. You would absolutely want to make sure that you separate construction activity from school activity. Thank you.
I will just, with one final comment from my perspective, make a note of thanks to everybody. This new site options were something I wasn't sure we as a committee were going to be able to get as an option for the public consideration, given the time frame and due diligence that needs to happen. So the fact that we're here with a potentially viable new site option is really because of the work of a lot of people to kind of make that happen efficiently, effectively, and a lot of good luck too, quite frankly. So I'm glad that we're able to afford this opportunity and another option here for the community. So thank you all.
So if we go with this, the two roads that come in to serve as bus routes and drop-offs could then become construction paths so that the existing school is not at all affected by any of the construction.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be excellent. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Thoughts? Beautiful. I look forward to hearing, further discussion in the community about the viability of all of these options. Yeah, lots of exciting things to come. So thank you. And thank you for pulling this together for tonight so that we could present it officially. Not with Phil Ford in the background.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. So while we're on the subject, let me stop sharing here so that we can get back to the regular meeting. All right. So next up on the agenda is due diligence coordination, potential new site. So what you have in your packets could be next is a list of potential due diligence scope and to be determined costs related to this pending, new site. What I will say is, and there was also some a lot of supplemental email discussion, between.
Would you
Scott
like me
and
to
myself.
summarize?
Yeah,
Chip?
please, by all means, sir, if you'd
Um,
like to.
Yes, so there are statutorily, when you're looking to acquire land as part of a school project, there's a form that you have to file with the state of Connecticut, the SCG 053 form.
You have.
And it's got a number of requirements. And statutorily, one of those requirements is doing a phase one environmental site assessment, the phase one ESA. Again, we've already started that process on the existing site. So that's really step one. And what a phase one ESA does is it uses historical records and data to look at the uses of that site. It goes all the way back, aerial photography back to the thirties. They do a very exhaustive research of the land. It's not, it's not anything involved with going out there and digging on the site, but it's really historical database. And if there's anything discovered, that phase one ESA then would recommend additional work, which might get you into a phase two or a phase three. But again, statutorily by the state says at a minimum, you have to do a phase one ESA. So again, what we want to do is we want to try and approach these methodically, but quickly. If the phase one showed something that was a deal breaker, said, wait a minute, there's something that happened in this site. We're not gonna recommend building a school on our site, then we're done, and we continue to look at the other viable options on the table. So phase one ESA, you need to purchase the land. Once we get to that point, you need two separate appraisals. We would recommend receiving one appraisal at this time just to assist with land negotiations. But you would need a second appraisal prior to putting the grant together. State allows you to use the higher of the two appraisals. So if one came in at, $50,000 higher, whatever it is, the state would allow you to use that higher appraisal as far as what they would reimburse on. And then the SCG 053 also talks about available utilities.
Well, we'll also need an appraisal as part of the purchase of, prior to any purchase and sale agreement as well, will we not?
Pardon?
We'll also need an appraisal prior to any.
Yes,
purchase and
that's
sale
right.
agreement as well, so it's kind of.
Yeah, it's
Due diligence
yeah,
on that.
it's part of the negotiation process, but it's also required due diligence for a purchase. And then you need to check boxes as far as available utilities. Well, if the only one that we know we don't have is we don't have, a community septic system, sewer system to that site. So, we are recommending that we do a septic exploration. We're working with the design team now, trying to identify that scope, work with the town sanitarian, just to make sure we had good confidence level that, septic, that the soil, the site would facilitate installation of a septic system. Either way, the new school on the existing site, new school on the new site, in both cases, we are going to need a septic system because the sewer system does not exist. So those are kind of the required. And then we're looking into with the attorney, just from a historical standpoint, what survey information do we need? There is a lot of available survey information right now. So we're looking at that survey information to find out if that would be suitable potentially for a land purchase. After we get through these first hurdles of doing the phase one ESA, septic evaluation, we start getting to a point where we're negotiating. Excuse me, is the existing survey information suitable? Not required is geotechnical investigation. Certainly we could do it if there was concerns from a geotech, but that's not required by statute as far as developing a project. So the numbers that you have here are sort of our best guess on a high level. Certainly if there's a lot more of the existing survey information that can be utilized for the land purchase, these numbers are very high. These numbers assume kind of start from the beginning, and develop those costs, both with the wetland delineation and a survey.
Yeah, so I think the way you described it, Scott, is we want to be methodical about it, but prompt about it.
Right.
And it sounds like the critical needs are a phase one ESA of the property, which we were
You've
aware
got the proposal.
which we do have a proposal from, and second.
Would we need to know what water is in the street to say that we have enough water for domestic and a fire suppression system in the street, that pipe to the street is sizable? enough to bring domestic and fire suppression system into that building?
No, there's ways to achieve fire suppression system with storage
pumps,
tanks and
with
fire
storage
pumps. So,
tanks.
yeah, so that is, yeah, we believe, water, electricity, your other utilities, again, you're a quarter mile down the road from your existing.
But
school,
the
so-
existing school doesn't have fire suppression.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Fire.
Right, but you can do a fire pump in a holding tank. Yeah, we believe, that'll be accounted for. So the only thing is verifying, septic compatibility, that we're sure that we can achieve that easily. There are engineered solutions. Again, I would defer to the design team should we get to that point. But I think we need to do that initial exploration and then look at what our options are and, hopefully we'll find that, there's portions of the site that are appropriate for a new septic system.
Have you and Mike been in coordination as a part of the purchase and sale or any of the discussions about appraisal costs? Or is that something you're working to recommend or?
I've been waiting to seek out those appraisals. I'd be happy to, on behalf of the town, put some feelers out. Now, the town may utilize, there may be some appraisers that the town has utilized in the past directly. Again, whatever would be the most expeditious, but certainly we're prepared to assist with that.
All right, so what I'll do, at least on that front, because I know we don't have anything actionable on that in the time being, is to coordinate through the selectman's office and yourself about how I'll kind of defer to Mike on what he feels is the most efficient and effective way on behalf of the town.
I do have a list of appraisers. Again, we see that a lot of times appraisers are busy, so it's, sometimes it can be a bit of a challenge. So, again, if the town has a relationship with somebody that they've used in the past, that would be my recommendation as a first pass. It's getting the initial appraisal.
Okay. All right, so what we do have and what we can let them know is a proposal from Langen for a phase one environmental site assessment on these 3 parcels. It should be in your packet. You probably have multiple copies in your packet somehow accidentally. It is a duplicate. There are multiple proposals. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but the fee for this is the same fee as we captured for the one we just did on the existing site. And this usually takes
About a month.
about a month. Yeah, and that's pending the ability, again, as part of the purchase and sale agreement, having access to the site, in advance of that to start performance work, which it sounds like, we have the ability to do that, as at least this portion of an enabling piece of work, so, I think we should probably go ahead and move forward on this. Unless there's any further objection or discussion. Yeah, it's 5 weeks in. Yeah, so. Yeah, no,
I'm for it.
want to make a
I'll
motion?
make a motion. Make a motion to approve the $5,500 for this phase one for the new site, parcels
From Langen.
from Langen.
I'll second it. You should do the partial removals.
For parcel ID 010-004-0D, 7.64 acres. Parcel ID 010-004-0C, it's 5.65 acres. As well as parcel ID 010-004-0B for 5.151 acres, right, 5.51 acres. Sorry about that. For a phase one assessment of the site.
All right,
Second that.
and that was seconded by Peter. Thank you, I'm glad that was you having to say all that. Okay.
I was gonna do it.
All right, do we have any further discussion on this? Any questions?
Oh, I'm all set.
All right, so, I'm gonna again take a chance and just say, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
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 Lisa. There we
Aye.
go. Thank you very much. All right, that is unanimous. So Scott will have to coordinate. Getting Langen
Yep,
access.
Yep, I'll
What he needs.
notify them and we'll get working on it tomorrow.
Perfect. All right. And then I will work with you in our selectmen's office, on appraisal. And septic, we'll have to have conversations with the property, with the current property owner.
Yeah, and you know, potentially get the design team out there and we can
Yeah.
talk about some exploratory work with the sanitary.
Perfect. All right. And with a little luck, we'll have something we can start to move forward with, at least by our next meeting. Or at least conversations towards that in our next meeting.
Can I ask a question before we move on?
Yeah, please.
The numbers, the acreage, does that put us in the ballpark? Remember, we were a little bit short of our acreage.
It puts you way over. You're
Way
gonna add-
over.
You're gonna add the whole school to it.
Excellent. And it's all usable within,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
excellent, thank you.
All right. What else do we have? Sorry, I can't remember what I said. There's also the DAS 553 form.
Which can be just used as reference, right? That's what would be.
Yeah, that's the checklist that
Just included for reference.
the architect will assist in developing that information.
Thank you, everybody. That's some good forward movement. All right, next up, we're gonna say referendum scheduling coordination, item 6D. So what I did include, and Scott, I don't know if anything has changed since our discussion last week, prior. But you have a milestone scheduled from last Thursday that Collier has prepared for us. It does not yet have confirmation. There were some corrections, I think, that we discussed separately, Scott,
Yeah.
but they have not been implemented.
Okay, I believe there was an updated one, but that may not be,
That's not what we have.
in here, but yeah. But at the moment, we do not have a defined referendum date
Yeah.
yet. No, thank you.
So what I will say is we've had, at the working group, had some discussions at our. This last week, it feels like a lot longer than that ago, but it was only last week. And our, Mike's not here to discuss, but he had conversations with the, townwide.
Selectmen?
The selectmen had, with the registrar's office, talking through the requirements of having the question on the November ballot for the general election. It does have some complications, meaning eligibility for this question would be different from the general election, which would require the registrars to have two separate lists, if I'm calling that correctly. Would have to have two separate lists to check people off on from one question to the next. Logistically, that might be a little challenging. The other thing that we have to be cognizant of is what it does to our time frame, because the general election, I think we need to have any language submitted to the state like by early September. Which at that point really triggers our inability to communicate with the public from that point on without significant legal challenges. So what the selectman's office had done, and your schedule doesn't reflect this yet, because obviously we haven't provided our consultants with direction. Mike had taken a look at what it would take, if this were to be a standalone referendum. And talking with, in the town building, we would want to hold a referendum prior to any of the impact of that general election. So by early October at the latest, so that they can then transition gears into the general election without any overlapping timetables. I forget the dollar value, but I think it was about $2,400 or something like that for a standalone referendum. Separate from the general election. I'll let Mike correct that next meeting. But the other advantage is there's only probably about a 3-week window from when we call our town meeting, similar to our last effort. Versus likely about 2 to 2.5 months worth of time. If we were to hold it on the same day. So that's a lot of additional time, essentially, that we can be discussing and getting feedback with the community and getting community engagement. I think, and I didn't write that date down, but I do know I can find it. So with all those considerations in mind, we had discussed looking at Tuesday, October 6th as the preferred date tentatively, if this were to be a standalone option, a standalone referendum for this project, which would allow us until mid-September, so after the start of the school year, when we get into
22nd, be from the September 22nd, right, would be
in that neighborhood. I
the
forget.
blackout.
Yeah, so we have to finalize the mechanics of that, but it would allow us like an additional month, more or less, of time and a much shorter period where the community asks questions and we have no ability to respond to them. So the advantage of that is, you know, students are getting back in school, families are getting back in school. There's an opportunity for this committee and our team to engage with those discussions meaningfully. After everybody's back from their summer vacations and are hoping.
Yeah, like 3 or 4 weeks.
That's
What
it's
it would
a
be.
so it's potentially I personally think it's significantly advantageous, given that it's not a tremendous cost impact. And I'm not entirely sure what the ballot ramifications would be. I think it's the same ballot. I'm not familiar enough with that end of the spectrum, but I think the advantages to this community, just in the ability to provide input to us and weigh in on the options it's significant. But making a decision on that is really driving a lot of.
Yeah, we're gonna kind of back into it
Yeah.
from that potential referendum date, working with the Board of Selectmen, because in this case, since it's a single point referendum separate from the national elections, they can be a little bit more nimble in the time frame for setting that. And then we need to work back from that to see, as far as our due diligence and aligning the due diligence to make sure that we can be complete with our due diligence prior to the Board of Selectmen having to set that referendum and making a final recommendation to the community for consideration. So, you know, we're gonna start with that October 6th point, work our way back, continue to work our way forward with the due diligence, and we've got to try and put the timeline together that allows that to.
I mean, I just looked at the schedule, doesn't seem. Terrible, that, right? You know, going.
Yeah, I think it gives the registrar office, you know, that 3 or 4 weeks prior to the November election to get out of the way, essentially. You know, we can't push it any later than that, as much as I'd love to.
Yeah, because I think, like you said, it's, the election is the 3rd, right? So.
But if you guys are comfortable
1,
with,
2, 3, gives it 4 weeks.
yeah, if you guys are comfortable with that, I'd like to at least kind of give the general consensus here to colleagues to start to pursue that.
I would say we could try to get our referendum for October 6th.
Okay.
Kids are back at school. Kids are back at school, traveling. You got 3 or 4 weeks before you got basically 3 full weeks of kids back in school at that point.
It also doesn't take from the township, the people working for the referendum on it, doesn't, their work is already busy enough for the.
Well, then, yeah, after that, then they have 4 weeks to prep for.
Right.
Yeah.
I think this works.
Was this a shorter blackout period by doing it this way also?
Yes.
Yeah.
By a lot.
Significant. Yeah, once we got word that those questions really needed to be in by early September, which means our town meeting like mid-August or something, like it didn't make a lot of sense.
This puts the town meeting, what, on the 15th?
Well,
September?
I don't want to commit to any of that.
But I'm just saying that-
But yeah, around that neighborhood.
Right, just ish, right, I'm just ish, right?
Ish. Yeah, no, so we'll work, given that, if this is, sounds like this is the way we're gonna proceed. So, with that in mind, we'll work through the logistics and, hopefully have an update at our next meeting as to what the impact of the schedule is. Or asking you to have an impact, have an update. All right, I'll let Mike know tomorrow too. Beautiful. All right. Thank you, everybody. Before we move off of this though, I apologize. Next up, we do have a couple of critical milestones, critical items, so, the dates on here.
June 4th.
Yes. All right, so first up,
Calling it a
June,
think tank, not a vision.
yes.
You use for anything.
Think tank. No, it is think tank. So we are committed, Thursday, June 4th, Tecton's gonna be, running a think tank for us.
Correct.
From 3 to 5 p.m. prior to a school event at 6 o'clock. Our superintendent is in the process, had some questions I honestly haven't responded, or you're gonna have a chance to read those yet to you.
No problem.
What I want to just make sure is you have what you need from us, or we're enabling what you need to move this along effectively between now and then.
Yes. I believe so. So the communication with the superintendent, the district is working to, the think tanks are an invited guest list with dissemination of what was discussed and the presentation out to the public afterwards. We also have a community forum, which is Come One, Come All coming up. But the purpose of this think tank is to assemble a diverse group of educational leaders to help inform the ed spec, the plans, so that we can give the conceptual plans that have been developed to date are absent of any district feedback, really. So this think tank is an opportunity for us to dig into a little bit more of the details of what that pre-K to 8 experience would look like through the lens of Willington leaders, educators, parents, and students. The superintendent has been assembling that list of people. We have a location, we have a time, we have the activities developed. So Tech Time will be bringing those materials, and we're excited. It's going to be a great event.
Yeah, it'll be great.
Yeah, so we have what we need. Long story short.
All right, so, and that's our first outreach. We are tentatively, you'll see here on your schedule as well, June 23rd, I believe it's a Tuesday. We are targeting for a larger community conversation. That is more presentation materials, questions. I'm envisioning it similar to, you weren't there yet, but I'm envisioning it similar to what our joint meeting was in the fall that they held with the CFP, Board of Ed, Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen at the town hall library, the town hall school library.
All school library.
Yeah.
And then I believe, I think Alex did one similar to.
Yes, yes, yes.
Came
You did one
Oh,
prior.
you're the old.
Yep, previously, yes.
Yeah, so we're targeting that before everybody jumps off for summer vacation. Great, as soon as we can. And then ideally we'll plan something similar in the fall before with updates before the community has to make a further discussion. I did have an opportunity to speak with our state reps and kind of put that on their radar, so we'll reach out to them as well for that meeting on the 23rd. Both expressed interest, which would be great because we want to keep them in the loop because they've been so instrumental in helping us get to where we are. And I think that's great. So we'll work through the details. Let's get through this think tank first.
Got it.
And then Scott. So the only other thought process is, you had raised a question, and I think it might still be in here. Project information of Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance prior to joint meeting. So,
Yeah, I think that was a holdover, but
yeah,
from the previous, so yeah, that was removed from the later one that I said.
yeah. So separately, what I think we want to do, we've obviously put all of our information up there publicly now, but it should probably, and I guess I probably should, as Jared, reach out to our other boards and just keep them apprised again, like I did previously, where we're at, and ask them for any input they may have. just keep them in the loop as community partners in this effort, so. I will do my best to do that. Over the coming week or so. Any other questions?
If, before we have a whole community clean, maybe one of your, when you're keeping them informed, say, do you feel the talk together as groups before the community event? Offer them that, just to make sure that when we get to the community event, we're all on the same page and.
Yeah, so whether that takes the shape, I don't know whether it takes the shape of a large joint meeting, which becomes more challenging, or whether that's just having conversations with them or inviting them to come in and discuss it with us. Let me reach out to the chairs of the various boards and see what they have interest in and how they want to relate to their respective boards.
So we have that continued support.
Yep. We'll do that. I'll make it. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Scott, for keeping that updated along the way. Keeping us honest on timing. All right, so old business, moving on, item 7A, communications, community engagement. So I got flagged, once we posted some of this information on Facebook, that there was an email chain that had gotten spammed from community members. So I went and just got all of the correspondence that we've received on the SBC email count. It's not much, it's a handful of emails, but you have them all now because I can't remember what I did previously and what I didn't. So thank you all, and I hope to get much more community feedback in the weeks to come, but you have those for your reference. So with that said, moving right on to SBC social media presence. So you'll notice we went ahead, we talked about this previously a few weeks back, but this information and getting this out to the community was kind of a follow-up to Board of Finance meetings and people asking for that social media outreach in town at President to Speaks and other boards and boards and committees in town. So we established a Willington School Building Committee Facebook page. It is open to the public. Sometimes cross-posting between other boards is a little challenging, but I've asked Lisa, who had expressed an interest, to kind of assist in managing that, because I quite frankly don't have the capacity to do that alone. But the intent behind that is really just as a way of sharing information with the community by regular updates, regular posts about the project in a kind of short form way, essentially. And then also offering another platform for people to ask questions of this committee that we can then figure out ways to address through Q&As. So hopefully it's functional. I think it's getting more information out because we're not getting YouTube views. So any way we can reach people, I think is a good way to do it. But I would invite and encourage all of you all to follow that and make recommendations of things for content that we want to see up on there as a committee as our work progresses. And thank you for your assistance with that, Lisa, despite all the technical challenges and hurdles.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to see it up and running. And as you mentioned, if anyone has any suggestions for things they'd like to see up on it, just let us know. I mean, at this moment, it's primarily just very informational and very, how to access or where materials are or events that are coming up.
Yeah. All right.
I think one thing important to mention under the challenges, I haven't read it carefully enough to know if it's really there. Under identified repairs is a comment that was made earlier about how not everything is covered, 65%.
Yep. Yeah, no, I mean, it's a critical point. It's some stuff is zero. Yeah, right. All right, so for the next item, anything, so feel free to share any thoughts and on future social media posts or any information you want to see up there. But moving on, in the interest of time, next up is Whole Foundation Outreach. I'm gonna suggest we table this because I don't have any update on that from Mike, who is leading that effort through his past outreach with them. So more to come. We'll table that for now. And we talked about community visioning workshop schedule already, so
Look at that.
nothing further. Beautiful. All right. The one thing, what I will say, you'll have in your packets here, and I don't know whether you have a copy of this over there. Yes, you do. Now you're looking at it. So I'm gonna move that we add mailer number 3 as an agenda item to our list under, make it agenda item 7A4. So that we can discuss. Well, I'll make that motion for now. Do I have a second? Seconded by Adam Zalonis. Any discussion? Talk about it in a second. All right, all those in favor? Please. Aye. Aye. Lisa?
Hi.
All right. So, thank you, everybody. That was unanimous. Following discussions on, following all of our recent discussions here and following Willington Day on Saturday, we thought it would be a good idea, similar to what we've done in the past, to try to get more information out to the community with a particular focus on that community conversation, making sure that that date is in people's mailboxes so that they can plan for it. That we just discussed as a tentative placeholder for June 23rd, which I think is going to be we'll lock that down and update. So what Lisa did was, and thank you, Lisa, was kind of draft and format something on our yellow committee standard here.
Yeah, I mean, what Tecton put together was very helpful in explaining the different options. So I just tried to make it user friendly or applicable for the EDDM option, mailer option. Which just meant really kind of, it doesn't provide as much space on the flyer as all the information that was on the handouts, but I tried to pick the main points just to get out there into people's mailboxes, the different pros and cons of these options. Certainly, well, and then of course that, I mean, I think the spirit of the community event on the 23rd is to talk about these different options. So kind of like, come to the event on the 23rd, hear the different options that we're looking at here, the different pros and cons. We want to hear your feedback, that type of spirit. But I'm certainly happy to, take it a different angle. I know time is of the essence, and this takes like a solid 2 weeks. Once we've kind of settled on something, it's about a 2-week, maybe a 2.5-week process to get into people's mailboxes.
Yeah.
So we wanted to get something on paper for y'all to look at tonight. But obviously nothing's set in stone. So if y'all would like to see something different, that's fine too. But that I think that the handout was helpful. People seem to appreciate it at the event at Willington Day. So it's not all encompassing of all the information because I just can't fit it, and there are just different requirements for the mailers.
Question for you, Antonia. I'm wondering if there's something to be said for like the consistency of that on our yellow, just that window in the same colors, same format, same graphic.
You mean the teal?
Yeah, instead of,
Yes.
I'm wondering if there's a way of keeping those colors consistent with the backgrounds and just have it all on our kind of a yellow back or yellow, keep that consistent. Does that make somewhat sense to you, Lisa?
Yeah, it does. I mean, as I was looking at the flyer, I wasn't sure. I didn't want to copy and paste it entirely because I don't know how well, there's a lot of kind of gray tones in the flyer when it comes to the text, and the text is kind of a little bit light. So I wasn't sure that would look in the flyer. And then there's a lot of kind of there's not a lot of dead space but in the flyer, but when you move it to the mailer and try to keep things like rectangular, there is. So that's why I just kind of redid the entirety of it. But I do
So-
think there's something to be said about having like a toolkit of colors.
Yeah, I think native graphic asset
Yeah.
files might
We can share.
help, or we just ask for your assistance in kind of compositing in a new format. Lisa, the only other comment I'd have is that we really want to stand out that community discussion meeting date time as kind of bold and prominent
Yeah.
on this.
Yeah.
More so than it's reading.
I just wasn't sure, but
Yeah.
yes, I mean that's definitely the central piece of the flyer is that we are having a community event and we want people to show to it. So that should stand out really above all.
And I'll just keep talking because I do that, sorry. The local postal customer on the back half of this, is that all compliant at the locations? It doesn't need to be in a specific spot?
I did, it's gotta be, my understanding is it's gotta be in the top half of the long side. I mean, the EDDM parameters, I did look at those. It is moved though from the last time, so what I was planning on doing was sending it to, I never get the acronym correct, is it CNM, and asking them, or I guess maybe I could run it to the Tallinn post office as well, but I will double check it with the
Yeah, I just want to make sure the printing is actually going to be acceptable for mailing. So that's something we want.
right.
Yeah.
I think I'm quite certain it is.
Yeah.
There is a PDF on the USPS website, but it's pretty straightforward on the parameters of the requirements.
You may not have seen this yet, so if you have any comments or thoughts on content too.
Sure, the only two, this looks lovely,
shift
Lisa,
along.
thank you so much. I think the only two things that come top of mind to, on the flyer, we did just note that the, grant must be submitted by next June of 2027. I don't know if that's an important detail to put, below the line items for the 93 and the 95%. On those options. And then, if we can squeeze it in, I think the email and website would be fantastic as,
Yeah, we're missing that too.
but this looks awesome, Lisa, thank you so much.
Oh,
And the only other comment I have is following from Ann's comment on, under the first column, identified repairs challenges. You got a little space at the bottom, so not all repairs are eligible for reimbursement. I think that was a great catch. Because as we talked about earlier in the public
Right.
forum, yeah, that's a major challenge.
Right. No, I agree. And it does, the way that the columns are set up, I do think it kind of implies that there wouldn't be that stipulation. So I will, I will add that in to make that clear.
Is it too soon to mention something about a fall referendum, or is that too soon for that?
I think we still have some logistics and fine tuning on the mechanics of what that looks like from backing out from the date we are working towards now.
Would look good if we changed it.
Yeah, I think it's a little early for that. But we'll have other mailers between now and that date for sure. Okay, so, are you guys comfortable with incorporating some input from our design team? And then kind of spitting this out in the next week or so to get this done? If so, do you want to approve the ability to fund that effort tonight up to a certain dollar amount?
That's roughly $1,000, right?
No.
A little over that.
There are. What would you estimate, and tell you time wise, your time commitment would be?
For this effort?
Yeah.
Oh, very minimal, Lisa's done the lion's share, so I think I'll coordinate what, I'll just send her all of our native files in a couple different formats, so she can utilize.
Yeah.
And however you need them, Lisa, I'll send you our
I'll work,
work to date, so that we can get you anything that you might need.
Okay.
but minimal, because she's done all the work already. Thank you.
So probably up to like, based on these, up to $1,200. Plus you do. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right. I'll go ahead and take a stab at it, and move that we approve up to $1,200 to print and mail through every door direct mail, mailer number 3. Once finalized in consultation with our design team and this committee.
We expect to see proof.
Not for a weekend, I probably should have.
Just curious.
So what we'll do, Lisa, I think we can discuss this a little further internally, incorporate those graphics and probably get another draft out by the end of the weekend to you guys and just final yay and nay, final flags and push it out next week. That sound reasonable, Lisa?
That sounds fine.
Perfect. Give us a little bit of breathing room to get it done. All right, and that still gives us plenty of time ahead of that. So, sorry, I did make that motion. Did we get a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Adam Brewer. Any other discussion? All right.
Clarify, you bring come to speak. Kind of thing.
Yeah,
It's not.
join us, have questions ready.
But join us is one thing, come to speak is another, you know.
We can, I mean,
More clear.
it's not working. I can certainly add something like that. And yeah, I mean, the text there is really just a placeholder.
Yeah.
That's all. I wasn't even sure. I'm still not sure of the time or the location.
Yeah, so we'll have to work that through. So what I also want to make sure we're calling it the right thing, or the way you want it to be described to the community too. So,
We're asking for it. So.
yeah. Come learn more, ask questions. It's what it boils down to. Okay.
Yep. No, that sounds perfect.
Beautiful. So I'm going to continue the streak, and I'm just going to say, no further discussion. No. All right. So all those in favor, then, if you could signify by raising your hand and saying aye. Aye. Lisa.
Aye.
That is unanimous. So no abstentions, no nays. Thank you, everybody. Wonderful. More information to the public. That's great. All right. Administrative needs. You have, under old business, so contract status and approvals. I do not have an update,
I also do not have an
and
update.
I don't have the first selectman here who would also potentially have an update.
No problem.
But what we do have here, is an invoice from Tecton for their work through April 30th, 2026. Yes.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Mike just arrived if you'd like to ask questions.
Oh. Thank you for the interruption, Jen. I appreciate that. Can Mr. McHugh
Yes.
say hi? Hello, sir. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Quick question. Do we have any further update on the review of the contract for Tecton? Just as a brief.
I am waiting for, I'll have to check tomorrow. I'm waiting for it to come back to me from somebody, but I'll have to check.
Okay. So we have an invoice here from Tecton for their work through April 30th. Do we need to wait for that contract to be in place, or does
No, the letter of intent will cover it.
Okay. So in that case, rather than make them wait.
Motion?
Yeah.
Okay, I move that we pay Tecton the amount of $10,676.90 to cover their services.
I would just add the invoice number on that.
Invoice number 49043.
Perfect. I will second that. All right.
Just for administrative purposes, Jim.
Yes.
If you get that to me by, let's see, today's Tuesday. If you get it to me by Thursday, we're doing a check run on Monday.
Okay. I won't have copies of the recorded minutes by then, but
That's okay.
will-
I
I
mean,
will
I'm
forward-
here. I will tell Rasheen that it was authorized in the meeting.
perfect. Okay,
Yeah.
well, we have to vote on it first, but yes.
Well, yes.
All right, so thank you, Mike. Any other discussion? No? All right, all those in favor? Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
beautiful. All right, unanimous again. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Technon. Next up is the financial report. So, the Sherry in the business office was not in office today, so I couldn't get an update. This is the same one you saw from 2 weeks ago. We did approve, you'll have a new update, including these encumbrances and the invoices we just approved, ahead of our next meeting. There'll be a slight change to the Willington Day line item because we didn't expend that full encumbered amount that we voted on, obviously, and that event is now over. But there is the legal invoice that we approved last Thursday as well. That is not on here yet. But we are hovering right around, prior to this invoice tonight, we're hovering right around $110,000 of encumbered out of the balance to date, so. Okay, we will continue to try to move things along expeditiously, but also being as cost effective as possible in advance of grant application. And, oh, we have one more agenda item. I apologize, which we're also gonna table because it's kind of ongoing. So moving along, 7C, operational impact consideration for consolidation. We obviously don't have vote tonight. What I will say is the Board of Ed did meet since our last regular meeting, and are in the process of providing that information to us and helping that information for us. I don't have an update yet. I'm tentatively hoping that we have a discussion on it on our June 8th meeting. Just because I know our ed specs are gonna need to be voted on pretty soon, right?
Not necessarily, I guess.
I think you had it targeted for sometime in June, but.
Yeah, we
it's
did,
not
but
urgent.
yeah, I mean, I think they should be set before you bring the project forward to the community.
Yeah.
Again, you can still make modifications later
Yeah,
before the grant is filed, but I think at least having that finds the project for the community. I think that's part of open discussion.
Our discussion tonight about pre-K.
Yep.
Yeah.
So more to come probably at our next meeting on that soon after. With that said, sorry, Adam, I didn't get you about by 9. Nothing else on the agenda. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
One of the quick question here, Brandon. Any idea when we might get some operational impact updates in Board Ed?
We worked on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm surprised we don't have, we worked on that at our last meeting, so.
So Phil will have something.
Yeah, he's not, that's,
He has that word.
I'm hoping, Phil, I've had some conversation or an email chain, singly on with both Phil and I think Brianna was after that, was wondering where this was and,
We did it at our last meeting, and we would be so.
so my hope is that, we had a pretty packed agenda tonight. My hope is that by our next meeting, we can, have an honest discussion about it and we'll take it from there. That's if we get it from the board to save driving. All right, I'll ask again. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
And look at me again.
All right, do I have a second?
Yes.
Adam Zalonis. Beautiful. All those in favor, everybody, please say aye.
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 Lisa?
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Meeting is adjourned at 10:25 PM.
Yes, Jeff.
All right.
Well, I kind of